Coming off of the grief camps that On Angel's Wings provided this summer, I wanted to address some of the ways that you can observe a child grieving the death of a loved one and how you can help. Children aged 3 to 5 see death as reversible, and there's that magical thinking. So these kids do a lot of pretend play, and death is almost pretend for them. So they think that anybody who has died is going to come back. What's really important for this age is to be very clear about what death is. Instead of saying, "We lost your brother," which to them means, well, can't we find him? You need to say things like, your brother's body no longer worked anymore. And when our bodies don't work, that means that it stops and it shuts down and it won't start working again. In their terms, what their cognitive brain can understand, we need to be clear about that so that they're not expecting someone to come back. It's also important to not say, "Oh, grandpa is sleeping," because they may actually have a fear of sleeping because they may never wake up either. When you're dealing with 6 to 9-year-olds, those children are beginning to understand the permanence of death, that whoever died will not come back, but they will not necessarily understand that it happens to everyone. They're also going to probably personify death. That's where the concept of like the Grim Reaper and things come from. They need that concept of something being a person to understand what death is. They may also ask a lot of questions about how the death occurred. They want to understand what can cause death, and so they're going to want details. If a child at this age is fearful that someone else they love will die, it's important that you don't make promises that you can't necessarily keep. So if they're afraid that mom is going to die, saying, "Mom's going to be with you for a really long time, you don't need to worry about that," we think brings them comfort. But what happens is if something tragic does occur that we have no control over and mom does die, then that's going to cause extreme damage for them emotionally and mentally. Children ages 10 to 12 do begin to understand that everything that lives dies, that it is universal, that it is a part of life. 10 to 12-year-olds also will start masking their emotions. They're really cognizant of what other people are experiencing. So if, for example, they lost a sibling and they can see that mom and dad are grieving, then they are likely going to start pushing their emotions down and not bringing them to your attention because they don't want to cause more harm to you. They may also perceive that some of their personality traits are triggering to people that have also experienced the loss. So they're going to start curbing those personality traits, pushing those aside so that they're not part of a problem for those people. What you can do for these children is to encourage emotional expression and provide safety for them to do so without judgment or trying to fix it. So we need to steer clear of things like, "You're going to be okay. It's all going to be all right. It's going to get easier." Those things aren't necessarily true. It really doesn't get easier. Grief does stick with us for the rest of our lives. We're going to have milestones throughout our lives in which that person is still missed. So we don't want to give them false hope that the pain's going to stop. They also need to see that the adults in their life are hurting too, but not in the sense that they would be bothered with the child's emotional needs. The best way to do that in creating emotional safety is to share openly with your child. "You know, mom is really sad today. How are you feeling? Do you feel like sharing?" In that space, we're not necessarily forcing them to share. We're asking them if they want to by first demonstrating that we feel safe sharing with them. If you're asking them how they're feeling and they've never heard from you about what you're experiencing, then they won't feel safe to share with you because it doesn't feel like this is something we do. Teenagers, because they understand the permanence of death and they also understand that it is universal, are going to start experiencing existential questions. They're going to want to understand why death is unfair. They may actually start being dismissive and complacent because what's the point if we're all going to die anyway? They might also start seeking the support of their peers rather than the adults and caregivers in their life, especially if that emotional safety is not established. They also may start masking their grief through seeking independence. This may show up as reclusivity. It could be rebellious nature. Anytime they don't feel safe sharing their emotions, then they're going to start pulling away. Again, you need to create that safe space for them. Be vulnerable with them yourself, but don't push them to do the same. They are going to only experience safety when they know that the person that they want to share with is also being vulnerable. If they want to wait to share with you, if they're not sure, that's okay. Make sure that they know that it's okay, but that you are a safe place for them. And when they ask you questions, be honest. Be as clear as you can be with the knowledge you have, but also being okay with saying, I don't know, but we can try and figure it out together.